Michael goes, where do I take your food? I go, I'm in a council meeting. I forgot. I go, forget about it.
Good evening. We're gonna start the meeting, the special meeting at 7:04 PM. Madam Clerk, please call roll.
Mr. Calvo,
Present.
Ms. Casal Munoz, Ms. Garcia Robes.
Present.
Ms. Perez is absent, Mr. Rodriguez,
Here, present.
Mr. Tonidor,
Present.
Mr. Zogby.
Present.
Madam Vice President, you have enough members to conduct business.
Thank you. Everyone, please stand for the invocation, and the Pledge of Allegiance is followed by me.
Dear Lord, we pray for wisdom and integrity. May this meeting be blessed with your grace and guidance. Amen.
Amen. Everyone, please face the flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, please read the meeting guidelines.
The following guidelines have been established by the City Council. All lobbyists must register with the city clerk. As a courtesy to others, please refrain from using cellular telephones or other similar electronic devices in the council chamber. A maximum of 3 speakers in favor and 3 speakers in opposition will be allowed to address the council on any one item. Each speaker's comments will be limited to 3 minutes. No signs or placards in support of or in opposition to an item or speaker shall be permitted within the council chamber. Any person, whether participating via the web platform, telephonic conferencing, or physical presence at City Hall, interested in making comments or posing questions on matters of public concern or on any item on the agenda may do so during the meeting. Members of the public may address the city council on any item pertaining to city business during the comments and questions portion of the meeting. A member of the public is limited to 1 appearance before the city council, and the speaker's comments will be limited to 3 minutes. The public can view public meetings on the city's YouTube page. Members of the public may hear the meeting live through telephonic conferencing using any telephone or cellular phone service. A smart device or computer are not necessary to participate in the meeting if you join by phone. All persons participating via the web platform will be muted during the meeting until called upon to be heard. Participation through Zoom requires a computer or smart mobile device with a microphone and web camera. The participant may elect to participate in the meeting using audio only or appear through both audio and video. The video function of all participants appearing through video will be turned off until called upon to be heard.
Okay, moving on to comments and questions.
Juan Santana, 5601 West 10th Avenue. How's everybody doing tonight? So we're here in a special meeting. I have some comments to say, and hopefully I can get some answers back. If I do, I do. If I don't, I don't. I read the resolution for tonight. I think it's very hypocritical of what's going on, even though the person's family member that's suing the city of Hialeah for over $5 million is presenting this tonight. And at the same time, I agree with the lawsuit because it was completely wrong what they were doing to the individual that's presenting this tonight as the sponsor of this. You know, I completely agree. You know, when police come and try to shake down your businesses, that's completely wrong in my book. But at the same time, for a councilman to be bringing up a certain item that needs to be attended, and honestly, Mayor, I think you're doing a great job. Continue doing your job, but things don't get fixed overnight. You know, there's big problems here, and you're like you said several times, you inherited this problem. This is something you inherited, and this is something that you decided to do about it. But at the same time, I think if we come with more guidance to all new council members, you've been here a very long time. You were a council member yourself. And there's a lot of things that need to be learned. There's a lot of things that need to be taught little by little. You know, things can't be fixed overnight. And I understand that because I see a lot of the stuff that's happening now. And I'm like, man, this is crazy. But this is what we're doing tonight is wrong. This is wrong what we're doing tonight. You're trying to silence a person that has been elected by the people of Hialeah. Right. And not only that, my campaign helped him. I ran for mayor 3 times here. My campaign helped him. You know, and I kind of see now this as he's being signaled out because I helped him. And that's not okay either. Because he has every right to say, hey, listen, we need to address this and we need to address this now because this is an emergency. I called 911 when this was happening and I called 3 times and I have the screenshots, I have the days. I just didn't bring it up because I know there's a problem. And honestly, I don't think it could be fixed overnight. But at the same time, when you have people calling you guys, hey, there's a problem with the 911 system, nobody's picking up, and you're getting the phone calls. When I'm getting phone calls about the trailer issues, somebody has to answer. But for this, you guys are going out there, someone's airing grievances with their government, that's just wrong. Carlos Hernandez did that to me for well over 7 years in the city of Hialeah. Proof is on YouTube, right? But at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is this is wrong, guys. This is wrong. You're violating someone's First Amendment right, which every single one of you signed a piece of paper that you will not do it. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else for comments and questions?
Good evening, Jose Aldi, 788 Southeast Park Drive. You know, my father left Cuba because of this. I never thought I would see this in Hialeah. But you know, Brian, you can relate. Donald Trump can relate to you. You're being witch hunted like Donald Trump. The Hialeah residents are not going to take this lightly. So, yeah, can you show the video?
Yes, the video show. Is it okay if we show?
Is it okay? Yeah.
I believe that there is an entitlement to address the commission of any resident, any citizen, whether that entitlement it means showing particular media. I'm not aware of any such requirement, so I would say it's up to the discretion of the council.
I'm surprised you wait till
So
now.
we'll wait to see? Okay.
This email was turned in,
Go-
Miss Councilman Vice President.
Yes.
This email was turned in
Okay.
7 a.m. this morning.
Yeah.
And I also asked Rafael Suarez to save all the records on that, how it relates to Brian. I want to relate to this. I mean, I've been persecuted too. I had the police department come to my house and suspend me from all city facilities. I had to get an attorney to get me out of that. So at 7 o'clock in the morning, they're going to bring this up now?
Through the chair.
You recognized?
How long is the video?
58 seconds.
Is the video relevant?
Yeah, it's ready. I turned it in earlier. The email, everything was fine. Ms. Fargo, right? Everything was fine. Everything was ready to go. And now I'm getting this obstruction. And Miss,
I'm sorry,
No.
Pepper, I was
Yes.
asking a question to the
Sorry,
Council
I'm-
Vice President.
I
No,
apologize.
no,
Sorry.
That's fine.
I'm a little
I'm
nervous.
saying
I'm nervous.
My suggestion is show.
No, I had already told him to play it.
Okay.
I walk my dog every morning. I just found out that Mayor Vogel made Green Friends Park over to CDS Navarro to destroy the park with its beautiful tree, a habitat to many birds. CDS Navarro's plan is to destroy this park for a parking lot. This is the house that Mayor Vogel swapped for Green Friends Park. It's at 812 Southeast 12th Place. This public street that the Mayor Vogel is giving to CDS Navarro is public land at Fernando Naciones Church and other residents use for parking. Please get involved. Come to the protest before the Trump Hialeah rally to save our park at noon on November 8th at Mylander Hendrick Stadium.
So I want to tie that with what Brian's going through. I've been dealing with this for a long time, the dishonesty with the board and the mayor. It's like unbelievable. You keep saying that this park was abandoned. I spoke to Willie Sanchez before the meeting. Parks and Recreation did not deem this park abandoned. Mr. Turner, do you think this park is abandoned, was abandoned?
I don't think the park was abandoned.
What about you, Mr. Rodriguez?
The office, we can explain to you what's going on. I think there's a lot of misinformation that you're saying right now.
So the park is abandoned, you're saying?
Question, ask you. trying to tell you is where you're trying to lead is not correct right now.
Okay, but Ms. Casamo, do you think the park was abandoned?
Actually, I specifically asked when we declared that a park in the last meeting that we had, because I didn't know that that was a park. I thought it was vacant land that was donated to the city. I did not see it ever in the parks. So I found out it was a park because you brought it up to me, and I've always been very friendly to the parks in the city of
Yeah.
Hialeah. So I didn't know that was a park, to be honest with you, Pepper. I really didn't know that that was a park.
Right, everybody in Parks and Recreation knew it. I have a master's degree in public administration. I worked for the city 30 years. I had no idea what was going on. This was all kept hush hush secret. I want to read this memo from the Miami-Dade County Ethics and Trust, just part of it. This is from Lorenzo Felix, the general counsel. Three Friends Park as a vacant was locked and not used as a park. False documents were used to do this. Here's another one from the Miami-Dade Bill of Rights. No county or municipal employee shall knowingly furnish false information on any public matter, knowingly omit facts that are given request information to members of the public. City planner described this park as abandoned, which was a lie, and this is legal records. I hope Alex, the attorney, can you come up here and tell me what the ethics board told you? Okay,
I think I apologize. I think the 3 minutes, I don't know, how you started? Are the 3 minutes up?
No, the video was part of his presentation. I paused it when the city attorney was speaking, and then the rest was on.
yeah, but it was a 1 minute part, right?
We don't.
So time is up.
Okay, so Jessica Santana, 5601 West 10th Avenue, Hialeah, Florida, 33012. I forward my 3 minutes to Pepper.
Yeah, so like, you're trying to cover up again. This is like a cover. I've been dealing with this for 10 years. Same thing with El Duque when it was privatized. This is like, this has to stop. There comes a point where we have to stop lying, You have records from the Zardi law firm stating the park is abandoned. You all have that. I gave it to all. You all have the videos that the park is not abandoned. I went to Rene Garcia's Cafe, Miss Monica, to promote saving this park, and you lied. You telling people that it was abandoned, that you're gonna get a better deal. How you think I felt? I gave you all the information. Our park, first Slade Park is turned into a school, then Hialeah Park was turned. Mayor, I don't know what plans you have. Maybe you told us afterwards with Filer, how Filer's been abandoned. And now they call that park, that's the most historic. That's where Henry Flagler part is trained to start. So this dishonesty has to stop. I hope that the Audubon Society is going to get involved. CBS doesn't know what's coming their way, but this has to stop. I mean, anybody knows that was the most beautiful park there is. I mean, I go there all the time. I live 1 block from there. I did not know anything that was happening. You go to Deborah Storage, it's a different story. And I'm going to end with this. In the ethics board, Alex is my witness. They asked, why don't you give information in Spanish? You know what his answer was? He didn't let Deborah Storage speak. He was a representative. He said it was too costly to provide information in Spanish. The board, ethics board, almost died. They hammered him. True or not true? True? He got hammered. And then Mr. Bo, I think it's your turn this Wednesday at 10 a.m. Hope the media shows up. Hope you show up and you speak for yourself. Not have an attorney speak to you, because that looks really bad when you bring an attorney to an ethics board and he speaks on behalf of you. That was a bad representation. So this is I asked Mr. Rafael Rivas to save the record, because our neighborhood is going to take action on this. I mean, it was falsified records to take our park away from you. And even you, Mr. Zogby, I met you Saturday in the 95, that park open house. You're telling me too that the park, you were getting a better deal. Like, I've given you all information. You all have videos, and you're still saying that park is not being taken away.
Through
from
the
you.
chair.
Thank you.
Is it okay if we
Wait, his
disagree
time is
with
still
the
on.
information that you've given? us?
Councilman,
Can you-
his time is still on.
Can you conceptualize
Your eyes don't lie.
that?
Videos
Councilman
don't lie.
Zogby.
That don't lie.
I just want to make sure he finishes time, because I don't.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
thank
you're
you.
right,
Thank you
you're
for
right.
giving me
Just wanna
time.
make
Right.
sure. I just.
You're
Your eyes don't lie. The eyes don't lie. All right. Your documents lie. Sorry. I appreciate it. Every time I'm a little upset, I apologize. Thank you.
All right, go ahead, Councilman, you're recognized. I think he gave up his time.
No, I think I said my piece. We disagree with him vehemently, and then that's all there is to it. You have to learn to come to grips with that. Just because you say something, you put something forward, doesn't mean everybody has to step in line with what you say. So, I mean, that's a reality, yeah. I mean, we're all old enough to understand that. So don't come here pointing fingers at us and asking us like we're on trial here and we're under oath with you. We've given you, we have cooperated. I've been 30 years. Yeah, I've been with the city 30 years. I've never seen you at peace with any administration. So I don't know. I don't know how to satisfy you. I've seen it. You haven't been at peace with anybody. So you attacked us. So that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Just to clarify, what we discussed that day was that the park is a passive park. I didn't say it was an abandoned park. I said it wasn't a developed park. To me, a developed park has sidewalks, has benches. This is grass. It's well maintained. It has a fence and it has the trees that they are going to preserve. And that was the discussion that we had, that we did not want them to take down any of that beautiful canopy that's there. And in exchange for that, we are going to get a park that is going to be fully developed for the proper use of being a dog park. Because right now, whoever's using that has their animals using the park as a dog park is in violation of the rules of the park. They are. So therefore, right now, we're going to create a real dog park that's going to have all the amenities and it's going to flourish. And we're not going to destroy any of the canopy trees that are there. And that leaves it at that. Is there any other further council discussion? All right, again, I apologize for my tardiness. We are on, I believe, comments and questions of this meeting. And I believe that we still have someone that's interested that I see coming up.
Hi, Eric Johnson, Hialeah Firefighters, Local 1102. All this discordant here, I might actually pay you guys a compliment. Just to keep you guys up to date, we are down to 19 rookies in our academy. Thank you so much for coming out today and filling the promo. You guys can actually see what we do. The construction has started many stations and repairs, which we desperately needed. This would not have happened without the involvement by the city. Believe it or not, our wonderful finance team, the fire chief, many other department heads, we're making progress. We're moving. You know, after 20 plus years in the city, we're actually starting to see movement in a positive direction. It's been hell. When you said that Pepper hasn't been at peace with any administration, I think I can claim guilty myself, but so far so good. We're actually making progress for the first time. And I'm happy to see the candidates here running for election. I'm happy to see a lot of public participation. We all need to have patience. We all need to have respect. That's one thing we need to do as a community. I've been up here admonishing this council and the mayors for several years over. This is a time not to admonish you. This is the time to recognize you for the changes that we are making in the city. They're positive changes. We're moving forward. And for once, I can say we're moving forward together. Thank you so much on behalf of your firefighters.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. All right, anyone else that would like to come up for comments and questions?
Hello, Elia Montes de Oca, 684 West 63rd Drive, Hialeah, Florida, 33012. As a graduate in political sciences, I'm a little disturbed by the attempt to have access to information and investigations being so clearly and blatantly attacked. I believe that all information is good information. I believe that as members of the public, we have a right to that information. And I believe that any investigation toward that information is a good thing, not just for the city or for its residents, but for democracy. And I am a little astonished here that we want to create a narrative, and there's a clear narrative being created. It only takes reading English to see the narrative being created that Brian Calvo is in any way, shape, or form more motivating his political agenda by wanting to know what went on with those 33,000 unanswered phone calls to 911. If it was 33,000 patients unattended to in the ER, we would be having a different story, but it's 911 and it's still an emergency response system, and we do not want to get to the bottom of it, and I think that's wrong. If anything, the idea that one shouldn't be provided with legal fees and the other one shouldn't be one should be attacked for looking for personal and political interest while the other one shouldn't is wrong. I think it's prejudice, and I think that is biased. If anything, either both of you are doing that or none of you are doing that. So I think we should just keep a clear lack of prejudice within this chamber and within the objects that we use our city money to move forward. I especially think this is true because at the end of the day, we want to pay for Bobo's legal fees. Is clearly what it says here, that we want the city to support Bobo in his legal funding, but we don't want to support Brian in his legal funding. Since the Magna Carta, it's been very important that the executive branch of government is checked by the powers of the legislative branch. And if that's something that one of you and the rest of you don't agree with, but one of you want to do, I believe that is within your right, whether it's Jesus Tundidor, Luis Rodriguez, Vivian Casar Munoz, Jacqueline Garcia Rose, Monica Perez, Carl Zoxby, or Brian Calvo. Each one of you are entitled to look forward and to participate within your job in the city to check and balance both the power of the judiciary and the power of the executive. And if any one of you wants to do that, I will applaud you and support you fully and to the best of my ability, because that is your right, the same way that it is Mayor Bobo's right to do that to us or to you guys as a legislative council, because he is the executive branch and it is his sole job and duty to check you guys as well and the judiciary. And you guys can work together to do that. That is the whole idea of checks and balances, just to explain that further. Therefore, this attack, this narrative, this idea, when public records typically cost up to $300 to charge someone $7,000 to say that they cannot be entrusted with something, when at the end of the day, their entire job is to be entrusted with private information as per the Fourth Amendment, I think is a blatant lie and a blatant disrespect to the office that this individual has taken upon himself, the office that individuals and constituents in the city have elected him to do, and the office that I believe that him and many of you have done very successfully so far. Therefore, I would hope that you guys would please cooperate with this. And if you want to leave it outside completely, leave it outside completely for both parties involved. Thank you so much, and I yield the rest of my time.
Go ahead, name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Lino Vasquez, 815 West 68th Street, Hialeah, Florida, 33014. First time I'm in this meeting, maybe I will talk a little ingenuous, but I would like to say something. I always very upset around Miami and all everybody said that Hialeah is a corrupt city, but I'm very upset because I think that Hialeah is the city que emana leche y miel, because many people with money, many people without money, they can survive here. However, I'm very upset that you're attacking Brian Calvo. He's graduated from the same school that is one of the best schools. Even the school in Broward, they cannot compare with that school. He went to Harvard. He's a lawyer. He tried to do very things with us. I'm very upset that all of these people are attacking Brian Calvo. You, Mayor Esteban Bobo, I believe I don't have nothing against you, but you went to our church to say that you did the right thing. I believe you are not doing the right thing attacking Brian Calvo. That's it.
Do I have anybody else for comments and questions?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. As all of you know, I'm Christopher Monsong. I live at 7540 West 20th Avenue. And while I'm just here to briefly say that I am greatly disappointed at this act of political censorship upon Mr. Brian Calvo, you know, I feel that as residents, we were all entitled to know why those police calls were not answered. We're all entitled to know why these things are happening in our city. And he, as a member of the council, has basically a prerogative to look into that. He has the ability to do so, to look into private information as an elected official. It is his job, and it is your job to help him. I understand this is a strong mayor city. I understand the executive essentially has most of the responsibility and oversight upon the body, and that is perfectly fine. But when somebody looks into an issue and tries and attempts to fix it, he should not be attacked for it. Perhaps his acts might be questionable in some other ways, maybe not. But please, let him do his job and let him get to the bottom of the situation without any further hindrance. Thank you. Have a great night.
Okay, do we have anybody else for any comments and questions this evening? All right. Seeing there is none, is there any announcements or amendments, corrections to the agenda?
No, ma'am.
All right, let's move on to item 8, administrative items.
Proposed resolution to condemn and disapprove of the filing of the case styled Brian Calvo in his official capacity as council member versus Esteban Bobo Jr. in his official capacity as mayor of the city of Hialeah, Calvo versus Bobo Jr., to affirmatively state that in the view of the city council, Councilmember Calvo is acting individually and not in his official capacity in any regard, to provide certain affirmative statements regarding Calvo versus Bobo Jr., To resolve and determine that the city has concluded that the case is an ultra vires individual action by Calvo for his personal and political interests, not undertaken in the best interest of the city or of the community, nor for any viable public purpose. To resolve and determine that the city has not authorized Calvo to retain counsel or incur legal fees in connection with actions taken in his individual capacity, including but not limited to the filing and prosecution of Calvo versus Bobo Jr. To further resolve and determine that Calvo shall not be entitled to seek reimbursement for his legal fees or expenses in pursuing Calvo versus Bobo Jr. Further providing that the city council affirms and determines that the mayor's defense is undertaken in relation to the mayor's duties and responsibilities solely in his capacity as the mayor of this city. His defense does not serve a public purpose and offering the city's support and declaring that the city's interests are aligned with the mayor in his defense of this case. And to advise the mayor that the city council officially supports his defense of the case and authorize the mayor and his legal representatives and agents to take any and all legal measures they consider appropriate relative to the defense of this case, and to authorize the mayor and the city to retain counsel at the expense of the city to represent the interests of the city and the mayor, and to admonish Calvo for frivolously wasting the city's resources, and to authorize the city and the mayor to recoup and recover attorney's fees and costs incurred by the city and mayor from Calvo under all available precedent.
Through the chair.
Thank you, Madam Attorney. Yes, sir, you're recognized.
Does. No, still has loud echo.
If you have a cell phone nearby, remove.
I have no cell. Oh, fixed something. Okay, cool. Yeah, wonder why.
The rest of you guys have your mics.
Okay. I'll fix it. All right, so. I think the reason that we're here is because I filed the lawsuit, and I think it's important that we go over what exactly the lawsuit says. So what I did is I provided each one of you a series of documents. The first one that you'll find is the lawsuit. And I think this complaint very eloquently sums up the 911 crisis. And I wanted, for the benefit of the council and the benefit of the record, to lay that out once more. So I'm on page 6 here of the complaint. The one that says Brian Calvo versus Esteban Bobo. Page 6, letter D, paragraph 19. In November of 2021, Councilman Calvo and Mayor Bovo were elected to their respective offices. In December of 2021, a consulting group was hired by the City of Hialeah to perform an assessment of the city's police department, including its 911 call center. That was the Colina Group report dated March of 2022. I'm sure you folks have read it by now. In March of 2022, the consulting group published its report, its findings on the Hialeah's 911 call center, and the consulting group's findings were devastating, to say the least. To start, the 911 call center was woefully understaffed. That's a direct quote. Employing only 6 call takers when the department was budgeted for at least 21 full-time call takers. The call takers were systematically overworked, underpaid, and often left unsupervised. One dispatcher expressed dismay that even though she gives CPR advice daily, she hasn't had the opportunity to take a CPR refresher class in 7 years. No one has been able to attend outside trainings or sign up for classes due to understaffing. One trainee recently quit after witnessing the environment post-classroom training, while another quit that after they were mobilized during a storm, realizing that they'd be required to sleep and stay there indefinitely. This high-stress, understaffed, chaotic environment resulted in high overtime, high turnover rates, and low retention. The consulting group also found that the software is slow. The dispatchers are faster than the computer, so it locks up. The mapping system is difficult. It requires specific abbreviations that are not user-friendly. It doesn't integrate GPS from patrol vehicles, which is a safety issue because they cannot pinpoint the exact location of an officer in trouble, so backup can arrive more quickly. The phones, the radios, the CAD system, they're all different. They don't talk to each other. Turn the page. I'm on page 8 now. The call center employees were not trained on the proper scripts and protocols to use when answering 911 calls. Even when the right 911 call scripts were used, the scripts were time consuming and redundant and often annoyed the caller. Around the same time in March of 2022, when Mayor Bovo received this report from the Colina Group, he issued an administrative protocol memorandum that's quoted in the resolution today, requiring that all city department heads inform the mayor anytime a council member reaches out to your department with assistance with an initiative or concern. In September of 2022, then Mayor Bovo issued a second administrative protocol memorandum. This time, Mayor Bovo prohibited council members, that's us, from making any and all requests for activities that require city resources without first obtaining mayoral approval. And the memo's there if you'd like to peruse it. Paragraph 27. The severe understaffing at Hialeah's 911 call center came into the public spotlight on March 28, 2023 during a city council meeting when several call center employees stood right there and they announced to the city council and to the mayor a public cry for help. A 6-year veteran of the police radio dispatcher in the 911 call center told the city council, quote, "We are severely understaffed, and unfortunately, a lot of problems with our staffing is retention. We can't retain people. We're losing them. We can't keep them. We're not working 8-hour days. We work a 12-hour shifts, and when we're short, we end up working a 16-hour day. I know for a fact that none of the supervisors ever get a break." And as a frontline employee, and our managers here, this is the 911 operator talking, I'm the canary in the coal mine. I've been here for 6 years and it's been a downhill trend ever since the day I got here. Unfortunately, we need your help. We are very, very desperate. We are very, very desperate. The division's outlook is poor. If drastic, rapid change is not made, we need your help. We need your help, guys. Mayor Bovo, he was here, and he made a statement to the city council chastising the employee for addressing this issue in a public city council meeting. This is page 10. His quote is, "I'm a little remiss that you have to come to the city council because there's other avenues, like coming directly to me, perhaps, or one of your supervisors." Mayor Bovo explained, because Hialeah is not la ciudad de lujos, meaning the city of luxury, there's not much more that could be done to alleviate the 911 call center understaffing issue. I'll jump over to page 30. Paragraph 30. So Councilman Calvo toured Hialeah's 911 call center on April 18th, 2023. This was part of my inquiries pursuant to the comments at the previous council meeting. At that tour, I personally observed only 3 911 call takers on duty. And there was also a rookie that was working as a police dispatcher to learn English by talking to them on the radio. After my tour of the 911 call center, I met with Mayor Bovo to discuss the situation. This meeting was held on April 24, 2023. At that meeting, I urged the mayor in private to take immediate action to remedy the situation, including paying higher salaries to 911 call takers, increasing hiring bonuses, and improving working conditions at the call center. But the mayor didn't commit at that meeting to any concrete action. Then on April 25th, the Miami Herald published its first story on this issue, talking about Hialeah's 911 call center, how it had lost 4 dispatchers, 2 call takers, 2 rapid screening officers, a police lieutenant, and an electronic technician. And all of that was since, or in other words, the year after the Colina report had issued its findings. Compounding the problem, Hialeah struggled to find suitable replacements for those vacancies because salaries at 911 were the lowest in the city. In June of 2023, at the city council meeting, I came before this body and I presented the evidence that I gathered on the ongoing understaffing crisis at Hialeah's 911 call center. I discussed with you all my firsthand observations on the call center, the devastating findings from the Colina report, the Herald article. I spoke to you about the residents that were quoted as having their calls going unanswered, the cries for help for Hialeah's 911 call center from the very employees that were before us. Indeed, however, that day or the next day, because the mayor was on vacation, he stated, or his office stated, that no investigation was necessary because Hialeah's 911 call center crisis was not that bad. The exact quote was, "This happens everywhere." Notwithstanding the disinterest.
I'm sorry, Councilman, are we gonna read the entire complaint? Because
Well,
you're
I
reading
think I
from
have
the
a right
suit.
to defend myself and I'm a
I
right
know,
to
but
talk.
can we have a discussion? Because you're reading
We
directly
can discuss
from
all
this.
you want.
I'm not
as soon
exactly
as
sure
I'm
how many
done.
pages you're gonna cover. Just to be clear, I want us to remain on topic.
I'm gonna keep reading. I'll let you know when I'm done. I do have the other documents that I need to go to.
What
as
page
well.
are you on now?
Page 12, paragraph 35.
So you-
Notwithstanding the mayor and the other council members' disinterest, on June 29, I sent a detailed written request to the city clerk seeking documents related to the 911 call center's operation.
Let's see.
This document was on my official council member letterhead with a subject line reading investigation of the city's Hialeah 911 department. Now, we get to the July 18 memorandum. On July 10th, I had a meeting. I had a meeting with then City Attorney Lorena Bravo, Assistant City Attorney Alexander Magrisso, and myself to address the request that I had put in previously on June 29. The city attorney at that meeting advised me that the request for records would be treated as a public records request because I had not obtained the approval from the mayor or from the city council to request documents. Thus, according to the city attorney, Ms. Bravo, the 911 call center records had to be reviewed and redacted by the clerk before I could view them. I disagreed with Lorena Bravo, and I requested an official memorandum detailing the legal basis for their position. Then next week, I received that memorandum from then interim city attorney, which stated that Councilman Calvo cannot request city records without the approval of the mayor based on the administrative protocol memorandum, the ones that I just read to you, and a non-binding rule from a trial judge in Escambia County, Florida. Unfortunately, that memo contained a series of legal errors. I won't bore you with the legal mumbo jumbo. You can read it for yourself. But essentially, the case that was quoted in that memorandum basically supported my point because it stated that the mayor did not possess the power to control inquiries and investigations in this manner. In the extent that the mayor's policy attempts to do so, he has acted without authority. All right, so now I'm on page 17. So this is where the back and forth started. In August and in September of 2023, I was advised by the city clerk that my documents requested had to be reviewed and redacted for confidential or exempt information before being produced to me. I was also told that I would have to pay for the records. This was the first time I was told that before reviewing and redacted them. I met with the mayor and the mayor's staff at a meeting on September 27th, 2023. The meeting or the purpose of the meeting was for discussions of the budget, but the topic of 911 records also came up. And at that meeting, I requested the mayor in front of his staff that I receive the records without redactions. I told the mayor at the meeting that I would be willing to review the record in a room here in City Hall at the mayor's office, even if being supervised by staff. However, the mayor unfortunately stormed out of that meeting and refused to
All right,
address
Councilman,
If I might,
yes.
look, I know
September
it's very
30.
entertaining, but if he's gonna start now editorial, there was no storming out of any meeting. In fact, after he threatened to sue me, there was no walking out of any meeting, okay? That offer has been on the table. He's not taking it because he prefers the circus. So you state the facts, but don't try to add any flowery language, Brian, okay? Don't do that because you're doing a disservice really to the residents of the city of Hialeah.
I think this is not a
Alright, so
trial and
September
we shouldn't
30th.
be taking it, Councilman, as a trial at the moment. You're- you're-
It is not.
Correct.
Madam Chair.
It's gonna be,
And
go ahead.
all speakers and all debate should be limited to the issues and not the personalities involved as a general rule going forward.
September 30th, 2023, a statement to a Nuevo Herald, Mayor Bovo contended that I would be permitted to review the internal documents in a room at the mayor's office. Yet a few days later, on October 3rd, the city clerk issued an official letter which said that I could not inspect any of these records without the clerk first reviewing or redacting them. Indeed, this was in conflict with an October 6th statement that Mayor Bovo made to Local 10, where he said that the council has told him and actually shut him down. What he is doing, we would charge any other resident. Now, curiously enough, in the background of all of this, I was requesting other documents related to water hydrants. It's another issue that, as you all know, I've been passionate about. And I received an email from the city clerk with the then city attorney Lorena Bravo copied. The mayor was also copied, his staff. And it said, as you confirmed to Lorena and I today, you are requesting this report in your capacity as a legislator of the city of Hialeah, and therefore the record is being provided to you unredacted as you have requested. However, Lorena has expressed to you that this information may be subject to confidential or exempt information, and thus the confidentiality is in your hands as much as it is in ours. So to recap, I requested confidential or supposedly confidential 911 records and was being denied those, yet simultaneously I was authorized to view supposedly confidential water hydrant records. So then we get to the September 11, random date, 911, 2023 memorandum. That's when I had asked the current city attorney to please give me a memorandum asking whether or not as a council member, I could add items to the agenda of a city council meeting, or if any of us could add items to these meetings. The then city attorney and city clerk says I couldn't add them because it was a non-agenda item. There was a lot of back and forth, but essentially the memorandum by the city attorney, this one said that in order to place items on the agenda, that I couldn't do that individually in light of section 3031 of the city code. I had to basically ask for the mayor's permission in advance to place such items on the agenda. So that's essentially what this lawsuit is about. There's three things that I'm asking for. There's 6 counts, but basically we're doing 2 things on each count. Count 1 and 2 of each of these 3 topics. One asks for declarative relief, essentially saying, you know, judge, look at the city code, look at the city charter, and give us your legal decision on what those charters and code provisions state. And the second part of that is seeking injunctive relief so that moving forward, if we have this issue again, if any other council member has this issue, that there would be some sort of legal precedent moving forward, not just on these specific topics. So for each of these 3 different requests, the first one is to receive the 911 documents or any documents that I ask for in the future. The second one is to ask for declarative relief that I, as a council member, or you guys as council members as well, can place items on the agenda without seeking the mayor's approval beforehand. And lastly, I'm also seeking that we'll turn a page all the way over here, 37. So these memorandums that the mayor put out in 2022 of March and September, which state that I have to go essentially through the mayor's office for any request, that also be thrown out. And I think there's very clear language in the charter that grants us the authority in cases of inquiries or in cases of investigations like the ones presented before you here with this issue, to not have to go through the mayor's office to be able to conduct those, under those provisions. So I wanted to switch over to the second document here. It's the one that says FSU, Florida State University Law Review. It's Article 1, Section 21, access to the courts in Florida. I think it puts it very succinctly here. This is quoting from the Florida Constitution, Article 1, Section 21. The courts shall be open to every person for redress of any injury, and justice shall be administered without sale, without denial, or without delay. That's the Florida Constitution. The constitutional provisions above guarantees to Floridians rights so basic, so assumed, so taken for granted as not to require expression within our state constitution. Surely as Americans, we have the right to access the courts, and just as surely the rights of redress for any injury. And justice, we may conceive of the situations in which the sale, denial, or delay of justice may occur, as it's occurring now. But to sanction that sale, denial, or delay, certainly never in a nation that is predicated upon liberty and justice for all. So I wanted, you guys can read it on your free time. It's an interesting read on what access to courts means, what separation of powers mean. I'm sure I don't have to give anybody a civics lesson, but there are three branches of government. We have the executive, in our case, the mayor. We have the legislative, that's us, that's the city council. And then we have that third branch, which is the judiciary. And like I just read to you, any citizen, any council member, any mayor, any member of the public can go to the courts and seek redress for injury without exception. And that is what I have done in my lawsuit. Funny enough, and I'll move over to the next document, so it's part of the record. One of our council members, esteemed family members, they've decided to sue the city of Hialeah. They've decided to sue the former mayor in his individual capacity. And they've alleged some very serious allegations about things that happened back in 2019 in the city, before the mayor was here, before I was here. And just as he and his family, they have the right to bring this lawsuit, I respect their right to do that. As an attorney, as a council member, I respect their right to bring lawsuits. And the courts, the judge in this case, will make that determination. If it's not a trial by jury, then a jury will make that determination. Who's right and who's wrong, and the chips will fall where they land. But just like they have the right to bring this lawsuit, I have my right to bring my lawsuit. And I don't see this council member being admonished. I don't see this council member being condemned. by
Mr.
those
Cabo,
actions.
the council member isn't doing anything. It's his family. And I think it's irrelevant to even bring that up, and quite frankly, disrespectful at this moment, because it's not him. And you went to law school. You should know who's filing the lawsuit. So therefore, it's not relevant at the moment.
So what I did
And I
provide to
think
you,
that
that's,
out of respect, we should not bring that up. But
well, I mean,
are-
he is the sponsor,
have you
right?
yelled your time? Are you done?
No, I'm not done. So I do have the city charter here for you guys. It's a light read. It's the constitution of our city. It's our city charter. If we go to section 2, this is page 3, powers and duties. Very interesting stuff. The mayor, who shall exemplify good citizenship and exhibit a cooperative spirit, shall have the following powers and duties. I'll turn to page 5, or sorry. Yeah, page 4, page 5, it's section 2.02, city council. The city council shall have the following powers and duties. If you go to little number 6 here, you'll see to inquire into the conduct of any municipal office, department, agency, or officer, and to investigate municipal affairs. And for that purpose, may subpoena witnesses, may administer oaths, may compel the production of books, papers, and other evidence. We'll turn over now to page 8. This is section 3.02, letter B, prohibitions. Interference with the administration. And this is out of everything. If you take nothing away from today, take this. Except for the purposes of inquiries and investigations. Except for the purposes of inquiries and investigations made in good faith, the city council or council members, that means just one, shall deal with city officers, employees, paraphrase, solely through the mayor, except for purposes of inquiries and investigations. All right. So just churning a couple more pages here. I'll take you to page 16, and it's highly relevant to today's. This is section 4.03, letter C. Outside counsel. The city attorney shall represent the city, their elected or appointed officials, boards and commissions, and employees in the course and scope of their official duties or employment respectfully. To that extent, however, such representation would create a conflict of interest under state law, the rules of professional responsibility, or where factual circumstances arise where representation of multiple parties may or will create a conflict of interest, the city's first responsibility is the representation of the city. On those circumstances, the city attorney may decline representation, and if outside counsel is needed or required, the mayor shall appoint counsel. Representation of multiple parties based on conflict of interest may be waived by consent only of the parties. Only the mayor and the city council may employ outside counsel. I do believe that is all for the charter. So we'll get to the last document, which is the resolution being considered here today. So when looking through this resolution, clearly there is some, I would almost call it inflammatory language. There's some certain things, and I think, if we're voting on it, we should know what it says. I won't read the whole thing, but I will read some key sections. And I am now on page 2. It's the whereas clause all the way at the top. It says, whereas Councilmember Brian Calvo has knowingly and intentionally engaged in conduct contrary to the oath taken as council member to support and uphold the city charter and laws that govern. Knowingly and intentionally engaged in conduct contrary to the oath taken as council member. I'll skip halfway down the page. It's the whereas. It starts with the City Council of Hialeah. Says the City Council of Hialeah did not authorize the filing of this lawsuit, and Council Member Calvo is acting in an ultra vires, in an individual capacity for personal gain and profit. For personal gain and profit. I'm not asking for a single dollar, but I'm doing it apparently for personal gain and profit, not in connection with performance of my official duties. All the way at the bottom, the last whereas clause on page 2. Whereas Councilmember Brian Calvo is acting without the authority of the council in bad faith and not serving a public purpose, nor acting in the city's best interest in filing this lawsuit, which brings discord, it brings disruption, it brings havoc. Skipping now to page 3, section 3. I'm halfway through the paragraph. Says the city council resolves and determines that Calvo's investigation and lawsuit are ultra vires and filed solely for Calvo's own personal and political profit, serving his own personal interests, and that I'm acting outside the scope of my legislative authority. Section 4, it says Mayor Bovo has been sued in his official capacity as mayor of the city of Hialeah. The lawsuit does challenge in the most frivolous, baseless, and this is my favorite, the most malevolent manner in my authority to exercise my official duties. And all the way at the end of section 4 says further, the council requests that Mayor Esteban Bovo recoup and recover all fees, all costs, all expenses in connection with this matter from Calvo. And obviously you have the oath of office that we all took. So those documents being said, listen, and I want to contextualize it in a very simple manner. We don't live in a vacuum here in the city of Hialeah. We're subject to politics from all over, from the state, from the federal level. I think many of the folks here tonight in the council are Republicans, and that's my understanding. And you see what's happening in Washington. You see what's happening with members of the U.S. Congress who want to investigate Hunter Biden, who want to issue subpoenas. They want to exercise the checks, the balances that they have as members of Congress, as members of a legislative body. Imagine if it was a requirement that they have to ask permission from Joe Biden to investigate the executive branch, to investigate, in that case, members of his own family. But here in Hialeah, we're being fed this lie somehow that I have to get permission from the executive in order to do my job as a legislator. Makes no sense. It makes no sense. And today's motion, and I don't believe this has ever been done in Hialeah or maybe in the distant past, but today's motion seeks to admonish me. It seeks to condemn me. That's the language in the resolution, because I'm exercising my right as an American to go to the courts and seek redress, rights granted to me under the federal constitution, rights granted to me under the Florida Constitution, as I just read to you. These are the very same missteps that happened in many of the countries that people left to come to this one. And now we're repeating the same thing here in Hialeah. I think it's quite shocking. I wanted to ask the city attorney, if I may, this resolution that we have here before us, it's open for amendment, and I'd like to get to that at one point. I would like to motion at some point, not right now, to amend, to include, if we're going to do this, let's do it right. All right, let's include the Tundador family complaint into this admonishing. But for the city attorney, what I wanted to ask was, who wrote this resolution? Did you write it? Did your office write it? I mean, who prepared this resolution?
Through the chair, if you want me to respond, I can respond. The resolution was prepared by the law department in concert with some others that commented and provided input the same.
Are those others the mayor's attorneys that he's seeking to represent him, Continental PLLC? Are those the others that you're referring to?
Well, I really, I really do not want to be, inquired of here as a witness. Okay. I mean, I've answered your general question. All right.
Take that as a yes. Listen, guys, I mean, obviously, this is unprecedented. A lot of the stuff that's going on here with the course of this topic of 911 has been totally unprecedented. I'm one guy. Look, I get it. I'm the 6'1" guy, whatever, the politics, they play a role. I get that. All right. But this crosses a line. This crosses a line Because what we're doing here is we're saying it's okay to single out somebody because we just don't like what they're doing. In the same way it can happen to me as an attorney, as somebody that kind of went through and tried to do my due diligence, it can happen to any single one of you at any time, the moment that we start saying that it's okay to do this. For not just for you guys, but for future councils. I implore you, I ask you, I really do. Think about what you're doing. You gotta be okay with that decision. There's always a line, and sometimes you gotta say it's too enough. It's too much. It's just too much. And, you know, if this reso would have read differently, if it would have been more watered down, you know, maybe I wouldn't hold it against you. You know what I'm saying? But this is just like, this is a personal stab. I mean, I read what it says. I mean, you're saying that I'm a malicious, malevolent person. And I want you to be clear with how you're voting. I just want you to know what it says. And everybody can make their decision. That's the beauty of this democracy. But just know what you're doing. Thank you. That's it. Thank you.
All right. All right, do we have any further council discussion? We don't. Thank you. All right. We don't clap in council chamber. All right, do we have any other council discussion?
Through the chair.
Yes, sir, you're recognized.
Good evening, everyone. Councilman Cabo, thank you for the context. Here's mine. You know, since I got elected in 2019, people have always tried to use my family as a political tool against me. And tonight you jumped into that bucket, Brian, and I tell you, it doesn't feel well. It's not great. It really does suck when they involve family into politics. All right, so just let's be very clear with that. But I learned one thing from that whole exercise. It's called desperation. And we'll take that from you, and that's fine. But quick background on this reso, right? And I want to touch on a couple things, including the context of how we got here today, right? And I think it's very important because everything gets lost in translation. They call the press. And so it's important to be very clear on what's happened and how we got here today. This resolution, in essence, is a continuation of the board's decision regarding an investigation a couple months back. And at that council meeting, the big issue was the abandoned calls. I think the councilman had multiple press conferences, YouTube videos, etc. And so I found it very appalling. And I think everyone who's up here today, if you see a numeric data value that's very high, you freak out, especially when it's in relation to abandoned calls in 911, right? But I think it's very, very important to, before you decide to create an illustration, to paint a picture or story using data, you need to understand it, you can't be biased, and you need to actually communicate the meaning and the intent of that data, especially to the public. Because what we received after multiple press conferences were many vulnerable patients living in long-term care facilities in Hialeah calling our office worried and concerned that the 911 department shut down. We had elderly folks calling our offices asking if they're going to be okay staying at home at night moving forward. Those were the realities that we had to deal with for this type of exercise, right? And so right before that council meeting, I decided to do a little research on my own, right? Nothing too intense, but a quick research online. And what I was able to do is, and share at that council meeting, was call center metrics specific, not just to Hialeah, but neighboring cities around us, right? Because if this is a problem, you just can't look at a number and be arbitrary and say, hey, that's a problem. Well, how do you know it's a problem, right? And so we looked at neighboring cities around us, including Miami-Dade County. And I remember this vividly. It was our call center metrics, specifically our abandoned calls, okay? The percentage of abandoned calls were either equal to or less than, right, every other municipality around us. And then I thought maybe, well, hold on. maybe this is a South Florida issue. And so we looked at other municipalities in other states. We looked at municipalities in Tennessee. We looked at Fort Worth. We looked at Houston. We looked at San Antonio. And what we found were, even in some years, the abandonment calls percentage was over 30%. And on average, it was between 18 to 25% of abandoned calls for those municipalities. So I asked myself, and at that council meeting, what is it that we're talking about? Because if we're saying that there's a crisis in our 911 department, if we're creating chaos, right, then there needs to be some sort of data that backs that. And there wasn't. And that's why this council did not consider moving forward with an investigation at that time. We have to be very frank here. Now, did we find issues within the industry? 100%. 100%. But it comes with the nature of the job. Those jobs are high stress. Those jobs are low paying. You need certain qualifications, right? So it's not easy to maintain that type of position. And so let's be very clear here. The state didn't come down and say that you guys need to do an analysis on your 911 department. When the mayor got into office, it was his administration who conducted that analysis. Let's be very clear with that. And after that analysis, once the findings were concluded, that's when you started seeing an investment within that department to address this issue. So that and again, and I do appreciate the motivation and the willingness of Councilman Calvo to move forward with different things, but we need to be able to separate policy and politics, right? And I think we've, how the councilman mentioned, this is going too far, right? And so, anyways, with all that being said, after the council didn't find sufficient evidence of a crisis within Hialeah, well, otherwise, then this is a nationwide crisis. I think the councilman decided to bypass our charter and conduct his own investigation. And I just want to go back to something because something that was said within section 3.02 in prohibitions, interference with administration. Except for the purpose of inquiries and investigations made in good faith, the city council or council members shall deal with city officers and employees. So there was a memo that I think this went out by the interim, Elsa, by the interim city attorney. And again, I'm not an attorney, and I know you just became one not too long ago, but it makes reference to a court case, right? And it says, I think it's Turk versus Richard. Additionally, the court stated that individual city council members may conduct inquiries and conduct investigations on behalf of the city council as a legislative body. Okay, so I just wanted to make that part very, very clear. Now, you know, this council historically has made public records requests. I know I have, right? And I can tell you that on average for my public records requests, we've seen anywhere between 4 to 10 records per request. And Councilman, you've received over 7,000 records in the last couple of months. So and again, I'm not sure if you were able to find anything. I'm not sure if there are any solutions. I haven't seen any of that, but I can tell you that that's not really considered a reasonable amount of records. And so again, the last set of records that again, to my understanding that you're looking for now is over 10,000 sensitive records, right? And I want to be clear with the public and again, what that means, right? Sensitive records. These are 10,000 records that contain sensitive information pertaining to many folks, including our police officers from the city of Hialeah, right? Very sensitive information that requires redacting. It means that someone, right, needs to sit down in front of a laptop and manually omit any sensitive information in over 10,000 records. So again, it is my understanding and the city's position that the city has never denied this request. The city has never denied this request. I believe there were 3 options and one was mentioned. You have another option where I believe even the city clerk had suggested and had even volunteered to come after hours, to come during the weekend so she can be able to redact those documents one by one. However, I believe the timeline didn't meet the councilman, so he denied that as well. And then lastly, because we saw how he had completely bypassed the charter, which is the most important thing here, we figured if this is the route that the councilman wants to take, then it's going to be one that he takes at his own accord. You know, we need to be able to understand the strain that comes with these public records requests and what it takes to really redact them and make sure that those records are ready to go for the public and protect the information of our police officers. But I just, again, just very clear that today we deal with this and what does tomorrow bring, right? The charter was created in a way to mitigate chaos, okay? To mitigate chaos. Could you imagine if all 7 council members here were at war with the police department or whoever the case is and requested the same amount of unreasonable data that has been requested? The city would break. It would break. And so again, due to this violation of the charter, not only does this reso again affirm that you've bypassed the law and acting on your own accord, but it also sees you responsible for any financial burden, not the taxpayers. But again, and I've mentioned this before, Councilman, it's your right. It's your right to pursue legal action. Again, and in no way, shape, or form is anyone on this council trying to prevent that. I think what we need to do is really understand the scope of our function, right? The scope of our work, and we need to make sure that we really listen to that charter and protect the residents of the city of Hialeah. Look, I know that it's tough because when I first got here in 2019, I mean, and I think the councilman alluded to it as well, but we had our issues, right? We had our issues with the administration, but at the end of the day, we have to remember that we ran to be council members. We didn't run to be mayor. We have to also understand and remember that Hialeah has a strong mayor form of government. It doesn't have a mayor council form of structure the way that Miami Lakes does or Miami Spring does. It has its own, and we need to respect that. Now, if the question is that we have a problem with that structure, then maybe we should advocate to change it. But that's not the case now, is it? So again, I really do hope that this council can support this stance. Again, we encourage the councilman to do and follow his right and all that. But I think we need to be very careful in the type of precedents that we set. Now, the last piece regarding the code on placing items on the agenda. The code is very clear on that as well. For any non-agenda items, it requires a minimum of 4 votes or more by the council to do so. So again, la ley. The rules are the rules, the law is the law. Now, if there is a problem with the way the law is, then that's a different topic of conversation, but that's not what we're discussing here today. So again, I do hope I have the support from the council and I move to approve.
Through the chair.
I have a motion by Councilman Tundidor.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir. You're recognized.
Yeah, just a couple points I wanted to address. The feedback's back. Okay. Look, the most important one, there was a lot of stuff said. I think you were talking about 3 options. I got pay as one of them. The second one is to let them volunteer and wait. I believe that's what you said. And then the third one, I didn't get that one. Well, you can, give it to me afterwards.
Oh, I forgot. You just mentioned it. You said it earlier. I forgot what it was, but you mentioned a different option. So maybe you can go back and look what you said. But I recall.
Well, you said there was 3 options.
Yeah, I know. I was referring to one that you said. You said, oh, they did this, they did that. So I offered the 2 other options that I know of. So
okay, well,
yeah.
First, I'm ever hearing about the volunteering one.
Sure.
But not to get stuck up on that. I think the most important thing that you said was that you and that the council, you looked into it. You said at first you looked into it, you didn't do it too much. It was a research on your own, that you looked at call center metrics from neighboring cities, that you looked at Tennessee, Houston, San Antonio. But then a little bit after that, you started saying that I was creating chaos where there wasn't. Because we had found it, you said we found issues 100%, but it wasn't with the abandoned calls. But then this is the key thing that you said that was striking to me. You said that you didn't find evidence. You didn't find evidence that there was a problem that merited the investigation. You didn't find evidence. So my question is, how did you not find evidence without looking at the records? Did you look at the records that I'm asking for? What evidence are you talking about that you didn't find that there was evidence that merited an investigation? Because that's what I'm asking for. I'm asking for these documents so I can see if there is the problem that people are saying that there is.
Sure.
So that was the key point.
That was the key point. Okay. So yeah. So when and again, I don't think anyone here is an expert investigator. I don't think you went to the police academy or anyone here. Well, I'm so sorry about that. I know that you did, but
lie.
Yeah. So usually how these things work, Councilman, and I can tell you from my perspective, right? I oversee operations statewide for a Medicaid plan, right? And so I mentioned before, and we have some new folks here, the way that we measure service levels, right, is by certain service levels that are reported on a monthly basis. So we look at things ranging from encounter submissions, claim submissions, but also call center metrics. And so there we have the same metrics that we've been discussing today. Calls answered within 30 seconds for on the Medicaid side, abandonment rate, et cetera, et cetera. Now, when there is a flag raised on those reports, that is when you investigate and you do the details, right? And you look into the details. At this point, using the same experience that I've accumulated in the private sector, right? I've tried to adapt here. I looked at the data. At first, I wasn't very clear on what the, I guess the national standard is or whatever the case is. So what I did was I decided to compare. I didn't know if you did that exercise or not, but at that moment, I performed that exercise to see how we fared compared to other municipalities, again, not just in South Florida, but in other parts of the country. And what I did find, like I mentioned earlier, our numbers were either almost equal or better than what I had found initially, right? So at that moment, you hadn't presented anything to me or to this council with regards to that raised a flag on, hey, there's a problem with our operations. And so those were the numbers I saw, the same numbers you did. Yeah.
Yeah, through the chair. So I'm glad you brought up the standards question because I think that's important. So the state of Florida puts out the standards, and although it's been characterized in the media like the gold standard, it's not what the document says. It says the minimum standard. The minimum standard is 90% of calls answered in 10 seconds. That is the minimum standard. And I think the mayor very clearly admitted that we are below the minimum standard required by the state of Florida. If your threshold for an investigation is if you fall below the standard, then quite clearly, I think you would agree with me that an investigation is warranted in this case.
Sure. Councilman, and again, and real quick, just because if I were to fire every subcontractor that falls below the standard once or twice in the private sector, once or twice in my private job, we would be left with zero vendors to provide services to our members, right? And so I think the number you were referencing to, I think it was like 87% the last time the last
it was actually 83.
Yeah.
And the 2-year average was about in the 60s.
Yeah. 2-year average. So what happens is that again we're looking at these SLAs and we went from abandoned calls and now so we're jumping around, but that's fine. So what's happening is that we understand there's an issue industry-wide. I think now what I would challenge you to do is also compare what are the call center metrics, calls answered within 10 seconds with our neighboring cities or with other cities across the country, so we can get a better understanding of what the industry looks like, right? But to be able, but again, it's not like if the city of Hialeah isn't doing anything about this department, folks. We've already seen investments made to this department that you've never seen before, right? We've already seen salary increases go up. We're trying to capture more employees to join the department. And then again, we're trying to make sure that each person that comes in is qualified, but that's not easy to do. That's not easy to do. So Councilman, absolutely. Like I mentioned before, I don't think I ever said that this department was perfect. I mean, geez, if we were perfect, then why have us, right? But investments are being made. And I want to be very clear, man. Brian, Mr. Councilman, what the exercise that you have done, or any type of exercise, any questions that come up, all that is good for the community, it's good for the city, it's good for the services that we provide. But for us to try to, in some way, shape, or form, politicize the issue, especially with a topic so dangerous as 911. I mean, folks, what do we tell the vulnerable patients in our community when we get that call? What do we tell your grandmother or your grandfathers when they call us because they're afraid that 911 isn't working? It's not an easy thing to play with. And so again, a lot of improvements I think need to be made, and I think the administration is working on that. I think we approved a great budget. Well, we all approved except you, but we all approved a great budget that is going to make these investments into our 911 department, into our fire department, into our police department, streets, transportation, the new roads that are going to be built. It was this council, well, 6 of the council members that approved that. And so again, I hope we have the support, and I believe I have a motion on the floor.
Through the chair. So I just want to respond to those 2 of your points, and then I'll finish up with a brief email. You asked about comparing to adjoining municipalities. I went through the exercise. Quite interesting what you'll find. City of Miami, yeah, they're accredited. Their 911 department is accredited. County, they're accredited. Miami Beach, they're accredited. You know who's not accredited? City of Hialeah is not accredited. It's not accredited in police, dispatch, not accredited in fire. It's not accredited in EMS. Why? Well, part of the reason is, again, we're not meeting the minimum standards by the state. So you were talking about investments and how we've invested more than anybody in the history. But when I hear investment, when I hear about spending money, the reason I voted against the budget and the tax increase of 13 million, it was because how are you going to know, how are we going to know as decision makers where and how to invest if you don't know the extent and the breadth of the problem? You've focused on abandoned calls today, but you've ignored the certification issues, you've ignored the CPR issues, you've ignored a host of problems that are occurring there. But like I said, I'm going to finish off with this email. It's one that I received from the residents. You were talking about potentially conversations that you've had. These are the conversations that I'm having. It says, I hope this email finds you well. I'm contacting you regarding the lawsuit filed against the Hialeah mayor. Thank you for wanting to make this improvement. I greatly appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. I would also like to share a quick story of mine and how this has impacted my life. My son, who is 6 years old, began to choke on a piece of chicken. I still remember the fear that it instilled in me. My husband and I both said it was the scariest moment of our lives. I remembered picking up the phone and dialing 911, and no one answered. I let it ring and let it ring repeatedly while my husband tried everything he could to help him. No one responded to my call that day. I remembered hanging up and calling back, and then it just began to ring repeatedly. I eventually ended up hanging up and going to where my husband and son were to help. Although it's not a recommended way to help when choking, I stuck my finger down his throat. I scratched him in the process to where I pushed the piece of chicken down his throat, no longer obstructing his airway. A Hialeah dispatcher called me back, but by then I had already helped my son. What felt like the longest and scariest moments of our lives, we were alone. There are a couple things that have stayed with me since. One, I'll never again buy a Costco rotisserie chicken or any rotisserie chicken. And two, I have the anxiety knowing that if and when I have to call 911, it might ring repeatedly. This is without a doubt a life and death difference. Thank you from a Hialeah resident.
Through the chair. Yeah, and just to kind of finish up on that, those moments are very unfortunate. I don't know if you have any kids, but I have two little girls at home. And actually, my wife and I have talked plenty of times about becoming CPR certified and having that tool at home just in case. But again, it's sad to politicize certain things, and some things you shouldn't do, right? So that was another one. But I could tell you, I could sit here all day and talk about how our residents in the city of Hialeah stand up for our police department, how our residents in the city of Hialeah have no issues and no concerns with our 911 department. I can talk about the countless times that I've been on radio and we've opened up the waves, and many folks have actually spoke unfavorable to your position because all they have were great experiences. So we can, I guess, sit here and exchange these types of stories, but those are never good. So, but thank you for that.
Just true.
So I have a motion on the table by Councilman Tundidor. Do I have a second? I have a second by Councilwoman Casals Munoz.
Mr. Rodriguez, Mr. Tonidor,
Yes.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo,
No.
Ms. Casal Munoz, Ms. Garcia Robes,
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Thank you. This moves on to our unfinished business. Seeing there's none, new business. All right, meeting adjourned at 8:30.